Millionaire finds alarming needle marks on son's arm every day. His life unravels. David Simmons had everything. With a thriving tech company nestled in the heart of London, a gorgeous home that gleamed with polished marble and designer furniture, he was the epitome of success. But each morning, as the sun flooded through the crisp white curtains, David's heart sank. He noticed them again, small red needle marks dotting his teenage son Jake's arms. At first, he brushed it off. Perhaps it was a strange insect bite, or maybe Jake had been experimenting with something harmless, like a new hobby. But each day, those marks multiplied, turning David's bravado into dread. As he sat in his pristine kitchen, the scent of freshly brewed coffee swirling in the air, uncertainty gnawed at him. He watched as Jake, his bright-eyed 16-year-old, occasionally stole furtive glances at his phone. It felt like a game between them, a silent standoff. David's mind raced. Could Jake be They're up to no good. I can feel it. David's voice teetered on the edge of desperation. Walter shrugged, knitting his brow in a mix of disapproval and confusion. A mere flicker of concern avoiding the weighty truth dragging David down. Days morphed into weeks, and the marks persistently reappeared. David felt like a detective unraveling a twisted mystery, peering into Jake's life through cracked doors and half-heard conversations. Yet his wife Emma remained cheerfully in the dark, blissfully unaware as she planned the lavish family holiday. One evening, Jake's phone buzzed violently, drawing David's eye. Curiosity clawed at him. He needed to know the truth. He hesitated, each heartbeat a drum roll of anxiety. Trembling fingers unlocked it, and there it was, a string of messages hinting at something much darker than he could have imagined. Words like "hi" and "need" pierced through his chest like daggers. A cold sweat trickled down his spine. Addiction? The very notion. He was supposed to protect him. As panic coursed through him, the doorbell rang, echoing ominously in the otherwise silent home. It was a figure cloaked in shadows. Someone Jake had clearly been hiding. This stranger held the key to the enigma enveloping David's family. Who were they? What secrets did they carry? David's heart raced, the weight of his choices bearing down on him. Would he confront this newcomer? Would he risk everything to uncover the truth about Jake? How far was he willing to go to shield his son from the darkness creeping closer each day? The chilling reality loomed, leaving David on the precipice of a terrifying journey. Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. David stood frozen at the door, staring at the shadowy figure before him. The chill of the evening air cut through the threshold. Who was this person? Jake's secret kept him from moving, from speaking. His heart pounded, racing against a growing sense of dread. The stranger shifted, stepping into the light from the porch lamp. David's breath caught. It was a girl, maybe a year or two older than Jake. Her eyes, wide and wild, darted around nervously. An unsettling familiarity hung in the air. Then it clicked. He recognized her from the neighborhood. She had been in and out of trouble before. "Is Jake here?" she whispered urgently. Before David could answer, the door swung open wider, and Jake appeared, his face falling. "What are you doing here?" Panic flashed across his features. "I need your help," the girl said, desperation cracking her voice. David's mind raced. "Help? What kind of help?" He stepped forward, arms crossed defensively. "What does she mean, Jake?" I just talked to her, Dad." "Don't you dare hide this from me, Jacob." His voice rose. The way the girl flinched sent electric fear shooting through him. "What are you into?" But before Jake could respond, the girl reached for his hand, revealing her own. A slew of needle marks trailed up her arm, stark against her pale skin. She looked up at David, eyes pleading. "It's not like that. I'm trying to stop. I swear." David felt the walls closing in. "Stop what? What is this?" The girl's voice trembled. The words tumbled out. I was using substances, but I want to quit." Jake was helping me find support. I thought that maybe a horrifying realization washed over David. "You mean he's been using with you?" "No, I was helping her," Jake interjected. His emotions poured out like a dam bursting. "I thought I could help her. I didn't." David recoiled, a vice tightening around his chest. His son was tangled in something far darker than he could have ever imagined. "You thought?" The bitterness in his voice cut sharp. "You're risking everything for this girl?" Before Jake could retort, another knock echoed through the quiet house. 3 quick taps. Then silence. David's heart leaped again. He shot a glance at the girl. "Who else is involved?" "Just please," she begged. "I'm not a bad person. I didn't know where else to go." The door creaked open, and Walter stood there, eyes wide, taking in the scene. "David, is everything all right?" David slammed the door shut, heart racing. "Stay inside," he snapped, turning back to Jake and the girl, panic swirling. How deep did this go? The walls of the house felt as if they were closing in tight. "You need to tell me the truth, now." Suddenly, the girl's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She dug it out, eyes widening in horror. "Oh no, I can't let them find me." "What?" David shot back. "Find you? Who?" But before she could answer, her expression shifted from fear to sheer terror. It's them." The girl turned to Jake, her voice cracking. "They're coming." A hard knock sounded again, this time more forceful. "Open up!" David's mind raced, 1,000 thoughts colliding. He glanced between his son and the girl, realizing the gravity of what he faced. Was Jake in over his head? Were they both in danger? As the door rattled under pressure, David felt the floor drop beneath him. What had he done? He had spent his life building a fortress around his family. Yet here they stood, teetering at the edge of disaster. "Who are they?" David whispered, fear tightening the air. The girl's eyes met his, full of a haunting truth. The next second, the door burst open, sending splinters flying, revealing shadows that loomed larger than life, and darker than anything David could have ever prepared for. What horrors lay beyond? The door burst open with a force that reverberated through the quiet of their home. The shadows that flooded in were not just shapes. They were threats, engulfing the last bits of safety David felt. He stood frozen, every instinct screaming at him to protect his son, to shield Jake and this girl, who was more than just an accomplice. "Get back!" David shouted, his heart hammering like a drum inside his chest. He felt Jake shift beside him, confusion and fear warring. Three figures stepped into the light, dark silhouettes that seemed to stretch like shadows, their expressions hidden beneath the hoods of their jackets. They spread out, facial features obscured, but David could feel the menace radiating from them. Anxiety seeped into his bones, each breath feeling sharper than glass. "Where is she?" one of the shadows demanded, voice gravelly and low. "Who?" David's voice trembled, but he kept it steady, tilting his chin defiantly despite the fear coursing through him. "Don't play dumb with us," another of the figures growled. "You know exactly who we're talking about. She owes us." David's stomach dropped. "What do you mean? What has she done?" The girl beside Jake began to tremble, her face pale as the realization hit her. No, please. I just wanted to get away." "I didn't mean to go back." Back from where?" David demanded, turning to her. "This isn't what I thought. Tell me the truth." Before she could reply, a sharp gasp escaped her lips. She stepped closer to Jake, shutting her eyes tight, as if bracing for impact. "I didn't think they would find me. I thought I was safe here." David's heart fell into an abyss. "You're in danger? What have you gotten into?" Suddenly, one of the figures lunged forward, reaching out toward her. Fingers splayed like a claw. "You think you can escape us? You're not free just because you say so." "Stop!" Jake shouted, stepping in front of her, desperation painting his voice. "You can't take her. She's done trying to change. Let her go." The tension thickened, silence hanging like a weighted blanket. David felt cornered, trapped in a nightmare that twisted with each breath. Something inside him shifted, a stark clarity cutting through the panic. "Okay, let's talk this through," David said firmly, pulling up his courage. "Maybe we can figure something out." "No more talking," the leader snapped, and in an instant he thrust out a hand toward the girl, fingers curled like a fist. "They say you can't run from your past. You owe us, and you'll pay, one way or another." The girl recoiled as if struck. "No, I'm not going back." And in that moment, the truth cracked open like lightning. David's breath caught as he stumbled back, his thoughts racing. "You mean she was involved in something? What about Jake? Are they both?" Before he could finish, a sudden flare of movement caught his eye. The girl spun to face Jake, her voice dropping to a frantic whisper. "You don't understand. I thought you were like me. Like me!" The words electrified the air, leaving a gaping silence in their wake. David's heart raced. What did she mean? The girl's reality twisted with a new weight, the shadows bearing down harder. In the depths of his shock, a realization slammed into him, leaving him breathless. Both Jake and this girl were tied to something darker than David could have ever imagined. Just as that sank in, a cacophony of sirens erupted outside, slicing through the tension. "Run!" David yelled, panic surging. But as they stumbled back into the house, the questioning truth clung to David. What had he missed about his son? Had Jake been hiding more than innocent naivety? As the sirens grew nearer, the shadows loomed larger, and everything he thought he knew shattered with the force of an unforgiving truth. Behind him, Jake's trembling voice broke through his racing thoughts. "Dad, I didn't want you to find out this way," he whispered, fear lacing his words. David's chest tightened. Who was Jake really? What path had they both unknowingly stepped onto? David's heart pounded in his chest. The atmosphere felt heavy, oppressive, and the shadows were closing in. He glanced at Jake, whose eyes mirrored the storm inside him, confusion and fear battling on his face. "Dad, I didn't want you to find out this way," Jake whispered, his voice barely above a breath. David felt the weight of those words settle like a boulder in his stomach. What had Jake really been involved in? Then came a sudden, deafening blast. A loud crash from the back of the house. Shattered glass showered across the floor like a deadly snow. A jarring contrast against the heaviness in the room. David spun toward the sound, panic striking him anew. "Stay close," he barked, instinctively positioning himself in front of Jake and the girl. A figure burst through the window, tumbling into the living room amidst the sharp glint of wreckage. It was another person, a woman, her face frantic, wild, as if she had just fled from hell. Dark hair clung to her forehead, eyes wide with terror. "They know!" she yelled, breathless. "They're coming for us! We have to go now!" David's mind raced. Who was she? What did she know? There was something painfully familiar about her, but he couldn't place it. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. "Callie!" the girl beside Jake exclaimed, her voice raising a notch in recognition. "My sister! I thought you were Shut up!" Callie shouted back, cutting her off. "You've put us all in danger! They're after you!" "After me?" the girl stammered, confusion swirling in her eyes. "I didn't mean—" The whispers outside grew louder. Heavy footsteps, low voices filled with rage, were creeping closer. David's heart sank deeper. "Is this why they're after you? What have you been hiding?" Suddenly, the girl's phone buzzed violently on the floor, lighting up with frantic notifications. A message popped on the screen, and Callie lunged for it, snatching it up. But the sight that met her gaze pulled her back. "No, not this," Callie whispered, looking paler than ever. The color drained from her face as she read, her hands trembling. What does it say?" Jake stepped forward, desperation creeping into his voice. "It's about you," she gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "They know everything. They said you were a liability, said it was time to cut you loose." "What does that mean?" David demanded, confusion morphing rapidly into dread. The mention of Jake being a liability sent a cold chill down his spine. "They know you're a part of it, Jake. They think you're weak. They want to eliminate you." Callie's voice broke, each word laced with fear. "No!" Jake's denial rang loud, but David could see the truth staring him in the face. Jake's involvement was deeper than mere friendship with the girl. What was going on behind all of this? David's voice trembled with the weight of shattered assumptions. Jake looked stricken, his youthful face crumpling. "Dad, listen to me. I didn't want you to know. I was trying to protect her." "Protect her or protect yourself?" David shot back, anger and fear warping his voice. But just as the tension reached its breaking point, a deafening crash echoed again. But this time, it came from the front. An all too familiar voice rang out. "David!" It was Emma, standing in the doorway, eyes wide with terror. "What is happening?" In that instant, the fragile web they had constructed cracked wide open. The room spun with chaos, and David felt time freeze, heavy with astonishment. Emma didn't wait for answers. She rushed forward, confusion pulling her closer. Why is there broken glass? Who are these people? David felt the world tilt. Emma was stepping into a truth that threatened to unravel everything. Jake's face turned a shade of pale he'd never seen before, as Callie's eyes darted between them, the weight of the moment crashing down. "Mom!" Jake pleaded, crossing the space to his mother, desperation lacing his tone. "Please, you need to understand." "Understand what?" David's mind reeled as secrets shattered in the air like broken glass. He was losing grip on everything he thought he knew. Then he heard it, the sound of sirens, growing louder, closer. The shadows were everywhere, and now a new, chilling reality set in. David grabbed Jake's arm, his voice a harsh whisper. "What have you done?" As the door swung open again, the answer hung heavy in the air, suffocating and merciless. Who were they really? And could David ever protect his family from the darkness that surrounded them? David stood paralyzed, heart pounding in confusion and dread. Emma's wide, shocked eyes roamed the room, taking in the shattered glass, the frantic faces around her. "What is happening?" she repeated, her voice rising in pitch. "Mom, it's not what you think." Jake rushed forward, desperation spilling from him like a damaged dam. "Please, you need to understand." "Understand what, Jacob?" Emma's voice cracked, her gaze darting between Jake and the girl, who trembled beside him. "What are you all mixed up in?" Before Jake could answer, a series of thunderous knocks echoed from the door. Someone was coming in. David's gut twisted tighter. He turned, the sharpness of his thoughts cutting through the mounting panic. "We have to get out of here!" But it was too late. The door burst open again, and in stalked another figure. This one familiar, yet terrifying. It was Michael, a business partner of David's, a man who once wore a suit as crisply as his charm. But now, there was no charm to be found. His eyes glinted with a darkness that sent shivers up David's spine. "David, I've been looking for you," he exclaimed, but the urgency in his tone told a different story. "You need to hand her over." "Him too!" shouted one of the hooded figures, stepping closer, fingers twitching as if ready to pounce. "Wait," David said, a lump forming in his throat, as pieces began to fall into place. "Michael, you're part of this?" He felt betrayal gnawing at him, but before he could delve deeper into that abyss, the unexpected happened. Michael stepped forward, and in a swift movement, he pulled off a mask, revealing a face that was more than just familiar. David's heart plummeted as he recognized the face. Aiden? It was his estranged brother, someone he had lost touch with over a decade ago. "Surprised to see me?" Aiden's tone dripped with a mix of sarcasm and menace. "I never thought the day would come when we'd see each other like this." "Why?" David's voice quavered in disbelief. "After all these years, you're involved in this?" The room whirled with implications. Aiden stepped closer to Jake, locking eyes with him. "They told me you were weak, just like your father," he spat, a cruel smile creeping across his lips. "But it seems you've surprised me." Every word landed like a punch. The bond David thought was repaired with time unraveled before him like a fragile thread. "You set this up?" David's heart raced. "You're here for her?" "No, for you, David," Aiden sneered. "You think you can just forget your family, leave us behind? Time to pay the price." price? David trembled. He looked to Jake. Fear etched across his son's brow. What have you done? I turned her in, Aiden said, satisfaction blooming on his face. The moment I found out she was connected to you, I knew you'd want to save her. And now, you have to choose. A single breath echoed in the silence that hung in the air. Choose? David whispered, as realization washed over him like ice water crashing down on his spine. Her life or your son's? Aiden said, eyes gleaming with a cruel light. Decide now. The weight of the world pressed down on David's shoulders. He felt the walls closing in, the shadows dancing menacingly. Could he trust Jake? Could he trust this girl? The familiar bond of family twisted into something dark and unrecognizable. As pressure soared and tension crackled like a live wire, David faced an impossible choice that would tear apart everything he thought he knew. What do I do? And as the shadows loomed ever closer, ready to consume them all, he understood nothing would ever be the same again. The question hung in the air, heavier than any decision made. What price would he pay for love and loyalty? David stood there, every word from Aiden piercing through him like a knife. Her life or your son's? It echoed in his ears, drowning out everything else. The weight of that choice threatened to crush him. No! Emma cried, her voice breaking through the tension. You can't make that choice. We are family. David felt his heart race. Family? But what kind of family was this? It was all lies and shadows. A glimpse of chaos flickered in Jake's eyes as he struggled to comprehend. Get back, David shouted, thrusting his arms out in front, instinctively shielding Jake and the girl. But just as the darkness seemed to envelop them, with the sirens wailing closer, a loud crash erupted from the side, breaking the spell of despair. A window shattered, shards of glass raining down like a storm. David turned, confusion flooding him. In a flash, a dark figure vaulted through the broken pane, landing with a thud upon the floor. Help! Get down! A familiar voice yelled, ringing with urgency. Dylan? It was David's younger brother, a face he hadn't seen in years. The shock was nearly too much. Why was he here? Out of my way! Dylan shouted, pushing past David, a wild look in his eyes. He pulled something from his pocket, and in one swift movement, tossed it toward Aiden. The object exploded like a firework, blinding light and heavy smoke filling the room. No! David shouted, stumbling backward, panic surging as chaos lit up around him. The bright flash sent shadows scurrying, but the abruptness left him gasping, lost in confusion. Jake, hold on! Emma yelled, grabbing her son, trying to drag him away from the unfolding chaos. But as the smoke began to clear, David caught a glimpse of Dylan on the ground, struggling. Aiden had dropped to the floor, fierce anger contorting his features. You fool, he spat, the previous menace replaced with a whirlwind of rage. Then another figure burst through the haze. A woman, fierce and wild, took his breath away. I came for you, she screamed, her voice filled with a mix of desperation and defiance. It was Claire, David's lost love from so many years ago, the one who had vanished without a trace. And now, here she was, standing in the living room that had become a battleground. Each heartbeat pounded in his ears. Why now? What were they all entangled in? Claire? David's voice choked. What are you doing here? But it was too late. The intensity of the situation hit like a tidal wave, crashing harder against him. Before he could process, Aiden twisted sharply, knife glinting under the light, aimed straight at Dylan. No! David lunged forward, desperation fueling his movements. The room erupted in cries and chaos. A piercing scream cut through the air. Claire's voice morphing into horror. Dylan! In that split second, time slowed to a crawl. David watched in disbelief, heart racing, as Dylan stumbled back, clutching his side. Blood seeped through his fingers, staining the floor beneath. No! David yelled, the world spinning, confusion warping into pure terror. Aiden's smile was cruel, knowing. You should have stayed out of this family business. Family business? David's voice trembled, each word a physical blow. What does that mean? What's really happening? But there was no time for answers. The shadows were closing in again, something darker emerging. David's world flipped upside down as another voice rang out. Stop this! An officer burst through the door, badge glinting in the confusion. Put down your weapons! In that chaotic moment, as the smoke began to settle, David faced a horrifying truth. His family was not just in danger. It was at the center of a web woven from betrayals, lies, and choices made long before he could intervene. Which family? Which side? The question hung heavy, leaving David gasping, grasping for a way through the storm. As the officers swarmed in, ready to take control, David locked eyes with Jake. What have you done? His son's pale face mirrored his own despair. What was lurking within this fractured family? And what more secrets would unravel, drawing them deeper into a darkness that felt so terrifyingly alive? David felt a whirlwind of panic and confusion as Aiden's words hung in the air. Her life or your son's. The pressure deepened, smothering him as he processed the shocking reality. Emma's eyes darted between them, looking for clarity in the chaos. Mom, listen to me. Jake's voice cracked with desperation. I messed up, but it's not like that, I swear. David's heart raced. This moment was unraveling swiftly, each second ticking away like a countdown to disaster. Suddenly, there was a loud crash behind them. A chaotic rush of bodies squeezed through the living room door. More police officers? David's gut twisted. He turned, ready to face whatever else awaited them. But instead, a familiar girl stumbled in. Her blonde hair flew wildly around her face, her eyes wide with sheer panic. Somerset, where are you? David's breath hitched. It was Lucy, his old neighbor, the girl who had been friends with Jake long ago. What was she doing here? Her panicked gaze roamed the room, landing on the chaos unfolding. There, she began, but before she could finish, the front door burst open again. This time, it was another figure, tall and imposing, stepping in like a storm. Lucy! The voice boomed. David's heart plummeted. It was Aaron, the leader of a local gang, known for his fierce reputation. He had not only been a nuisance to the neighborhood, but also someone David had tried to distance his family from. Get away from her! Aaron yelled, eyes blazing. Dad! Jake shouted, horror twisting on his face. Get back! He's not here for us! You lie! Aaron's voice thundered as he advanced into the room. You've brought trouble to our doorstep. In an instant, the scene morphed into a maelstrom of fear and confusion. A sudden clang echoed as Aiden lunged at Aaron, fists flying, their movements frantic like a vicious dance. Glass crunched beneath their feet, splintering the fragile tension. Through the chaos, Lucy rushed over to David, grabbing his arm tightly. "You have to listen to me. It's about Jake." Lucy! But before he could grasp her words, everything shattered. A deafening explosion rocked the house. It came from outside, shaking the very foundation of their lives. David stumbled, instinctively covering Jake and Emma, visions of the worst spiraling through his mind. "What?" Emma gasped, eyes wide in disbelief. Before David could answer, smoke began to billow through the room. The air felt thick and suffocating. "Out! Everyone out!" David shouted, urgency weaving through his voice. Just then, Lucy gripped Jake's shoulder. "You don't understand. They found something out." "About your dad!" "What?" David's heart raced, dread twisting like a knife. "Family secrets!" Lucy's voice trembled, eyes darting around wildly. "It's not just you, Jake. It's bigger than you think." But a sudden shout cut through their confusion. "Get away!" A police officer cried out as Aaron intensified his struggle with Aiden. Then, with a piercing roar, the entire front wall of the house crumbled inward. "Run!" David yelled, pulling Jake and Emma along. But he felt Lucy's grip slip away. "Wait! You have to stop!" Lucy screamed. In the chaos of fleeing, David turned just in time to see Aaron swing toward Lucy, a glint of malice in his eyes. "You should have never come here!" And then, the world exploded. A blinding flash enveloped them all, sending David crashing into a dark abyss. Moments felt like hours. Shadows danced in his mind, and when he opened his eyes again, the house stood in ruins. Ashes and dust lingered in the air like ghosts. "Jake?" David coughed, panic flooding him anew. But as he stood, blinking against the light, he realized everything had shifted. The familiar faces were scattered among the wreckage, but Lucy was gone. "Where is she?" he rasped, his throat burning. And then the voice echoed back, chilling him to the bone. It was Aiden, standing amid the wreckage, smirking. "You really did not know, did you? Lucy isn't who you think she is." The revelation hung in the air, heavy and thick. David's heart thundered as new questions raced through his mind. What did that mean for Jake, for them all? As the shadows whispered around the disaster, the truth felt like a noose tightening around his throat. What had he missed? And more importantly, who was Lucy, really? David stood, shock coursing through him. Aiden's brutal words hung in the thick air. "Lucy isn't who you think she is!" Those words felt like a punch to the gut. David's mind raced back. Memories of laughter, youthful innocence. Could it really be? "Where is—" he began, but the rest crumbled in his throat. He felt the weight of 1,000 questions swirling around him. But then, amidst the chaos, a low, steady hum started to rise. David turned suddenly, eyes darting to the flickering shadows. A figure emerged from the smoke. His stomach dropped. It was Lucy. "Lucy!" he shouted, taking a step toward her, relief rushing through him. But Lucy's face was twisted in fear, eyes wide and glassy. "Get away from me!" she screamed, but it wasn't David she was looking at. It was Aiden. "You let them find me! Why didn't you protect me?" "Lucy, what's happening?" David felt the panic clawing at his chest, but all at once, Lucy's expression shifted, clarity bursting through. "You never knew! None of you did!" she yelled. "What do you mean?" Jake cried out, bewildered. "You're not part of this!" But Lucy shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I was never just your neighbor. I was sent here to keep an eye on you, Jake." "What?" The word almost choked David. The ground beneath him felt unsteady. "Keep an eye on him? What does that even mean?" "Aiden and we've worked together," she said, voice trembling but strong. "I was supposed to report back. I didn't want to. But they would have hurt you if I didn't." "What are you saying?" David's heart raced. "You lied to us?" "Yes," Lucy burst out, hands trembling. "I didn't think I'd fall for him. I thought I was here to help. But then I got too close to you all." Aiden stepped closer, a smirk creeping across his face as if he'd just won a game. "And now you see. Every decision matters. Those who don't understand can't survive." "Survive?" Emma exclaimed. "You have a choice to make." "This is madness!" But the reality of the moment wrapped around David like a vice. "What about Dylan?" he asked, a creeping unease gnawing at him. "He's bleeding! Where's the medic?" "We don't have time," Lucy shouted, her voice cracking with urgency. "They'll be back! You need to get out now!" Suddenly, the shadows moved. Back outside, a deafening roar of engines erupted, tires screeching. A convoy of black SUVs rolled up, slick and threatening. David's blood ran cold. "What's happening? Who are they?" Aiden stepped back, his smirk fading. "You should have left well enough alone, David. Now you've made it personal." The tension cracked, sudden and hard. As the SUVs came to a halt, figures emerged, clad in tactical gear, eyes hidden behind dark glasses. It was just then that something glittered in the smoke. A small device, alive with blue light, rolled into the room and exploded, propelling everyone to the ground. Shaking the very foundation of the house, everything went silent, a crushing stillness. David blinked through the haze, and when he opened his eyes, there, standing amid the chaos, was Lucy, suddenly transformed, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Lucy?" Panic gripped David, but something was off. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice unchained from fear, floating like a specter. "I never meant to deceive you, but I can't let them take what's mine." And just like that, the world around them shifted abruptly, revealing truths darker than he could have ever imagined. Jake's confusion morphed into something he'd never seen before. Fear blended with awe. As shadows moved closer, David felt everything unravel. "What are you?" he whispered. Heart pounding, the frail grip he had on reality slipping away. Could everything they thought they knew be just a facade? Was Lucy really who they believed? And with the walls closing in, what would it take to uncover the rest of the secrets hidden in the darkness? David stood, heart racing, focused on Lucy. Her eyes glimmered with that otherworldly light, almost too bright, too fierce. "I'm sorry," she whispered, each word heavy with revelation. "I never meant to deceive you. But I can't let them take what's mine." Time slowed. Shadows danced across her face, as the stark reality of her words hit him like a freight train. Was she from something beyond? A part of something dangerous? And then, just as David was about to speak, a murmur broke through the smoke. The air crackled as the door creaked ominously. "Lucy!" shouted a voice, breaking the thick tension. It was Callie, still trembling but alive, clutching her sister's arm. "We have to go! They're here!" David felt the ground shift beneath him. A sickening knot twisted in his stomach. Why was everyone tied to this mess? Why didn't you tell us? Drake demanded, stepping toward Lucy, face tight with confusion. Because I didn't know. Lucy's words cut off as a low rumble surged closer. The tension was palpable. David could feel it in his bones. Then, the unmistakable sound of heavy boots echoed from the back. They were coming for them. The tactical figures outside were merely moments away from storming in. Panic surfaced. "Get down!" Emma yelled, but it was too late. The door burst open, and a dark figure stepped through. This time, it wasn't just an officer or a gang member. It was a man, tall and imposing, someone David had never expected to see. "Dad?" the figure asked, but the voice was chillingly familiar. It was Thomas, David's childhood best friend, long gone from his life, now appearing like a specter. "Thomas?" David breathed, shock paralyzing him. "Get away from them! Now!" Thomas shouted, eyes frantic. David turned to Lucy, then back to Thomas. This was getting out of hand. Everyone was connected, threads weaving through the chaos. "What are you doing here?" "I was sent," Thomas panted, clothes torn and smudged. "But you have to trust me. They've corrupted everything. They're not who you think." "Not who we think?" David's mind raced, a whirlwind of betrayals crashing around him. "What are you hiding?" A sudden explosion of sound echoed from outside, shaking the ground again. Then darkness loomed. David squinted through the haze, and in a flash, he noticed something lurking behind Thomas. A glint of metal, sharp and cruel. A knife shining under the smoke. "Thomas, look out!" David cried, but it was too late. In one swift motion, Aiden lunged forward, and the knife plunged deep into Thomas's side. A gasp escaped the crowd. Time froze. David's breath caught, his heart throbbing painfully. "No!" A primal scream erupted from David's lips as he lunged forward. "You monster!" But as he reached for Thomas, a blinding light ignited from Lucy, bursting forth in a wave that knocked everyone back. The room exploded in a kaleidoscope of color, and David stumbled. When the light faded, everything felt different. Empty! Lucy stood, but now her eyes had changed. They were wild, filled with a fierce energy. She turned toward Aiden, and the air crackled. "You don't get to hurt anyone else!" Aiden stepped back, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "You're not supposed to..." But before he could finish, Lucy raised her hand. With a force he couldn't comprehend, a beam shot from her palm. It collided with Aiden, sending him crashing toward the wall. In the chaos, Thomas lay on the ground, gasping for air. "David, I needed to tell you. I didn't come back for me. I came for you, to stop them." "What do you mean?" David's heart shattered. All the pieces fell into place. Aiden, Lucy. But what did this mean for Jake? As the shadows closed in, David felt the world spin beneath him. Who was his friend, really? What about Lucy's true nature? The truth was spiraling out of control, unraveling threads he had thought were solid. Now there was no safety, only a deep chasm of uncertainty. Darkness loomed ahead, whispering secrets David wasn't sure he wanted to uncover. What would be left when the dust settled? David's breath caught as he watched Lucy radiate that impossible light. A force against the chaos. What are you? He whispered, heart pounding in his chest. I'm sorry, she gasped, eyes flickering between the darkness and the flickering lights of the chaos outside. But I have to stop him. I won't let them take you. Aiden reeled from her energy, eyes flashing with fury and disbelief. You think you can just? With a swift motion, she turned the light onto him, illuminating the space, giving David a moment of clarity. Emotion surged within him. Lucy, please, just let us leave. Let's not fight. But there was no turning back. Aiden regained his composure, lunging at Lucy. But with agility, she sidestepped, sending him crashing into the wall. Thomas! David yelled, rushing toward his friend. His heart sank as he saw him struggling for breath. Blood seeping through his fingers. Thomas looked up. It's not over yet, David. You have to remember, they're strong, but you're stronger. His eyes fluttered, hinting at the last reserves of hope. Stay with me! David clasped Thomas's hand, the warmth slipping away. Someone call for help. Lucy blinked, her eyes softening. If we're going to do this, we need all of us, together. David felt a sliver of hope, but as quickly as it flared, the moment was crushed. The sound of marching boots crested over the chaos. The door suddenly exploded open, and agents rushed in, clad in dark uniforms, faces obscured. Get down, one shouted, leveling a weapon towards Aiden. This is the police! You're surrounded! Time froze. The police converged, and David could see panic ripple through the chaos. Government agents were here. This was bigger than any of them knew. Lucy! Callie shouted, pulling her sister toward safety. We need to move! Stay back! Aiden shouted, commanding the room, desperation clawing his voice. The air crackled, tension palpable, twisting through everyone like a tightly wound spring. In that moment, the ground shifted. David felt it beneath his feet. With one powerful blast of Lucy's energy, the walls burst, sending debris flying. The agent staggered back, dazed but not defeated. Go! David shouted, grabbing Jake. We can't stay here! As they dashed for the exit, a thought struck him. What if they could escape this nightmare together? Wait! Lucy's voice caught him. I can close the portal. Make sure it's safe. David hesitated, catching her gaze. But how? I just need a moment, she replied, determination lighting her once frightened eyes. As they fled toward safety, he glanced back. Lucy stood alone in the midst of chaos. Lucy, please! Just go, she yelled, her voice fierce as brilliant light engulfed her, illuminating the shadows. With the sound of sirens echoing outside, David felt a sense of urgency. They needed to disappear. They needed to escape this madness. As they burst out into the night air, breaths escaping lungs, adrenaline pooling within them, David grasped Jake's arm, holding him tightly. We will find her again. Behind them, the bright light flickered, and the shadows swallowed it whole. But deep within the chaos, a different truth lingered. Family, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds of love. As they raced down the street, David realized they were alive. And sometimes it was enough to just keep moving forward. But a question lingered in his mind. Would Lucy return? And at what cost? What did the future hold? Only time would tell. If you enjoyed this story, you must subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the time to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear what you think, and share this video immediately with